Hello. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is my guest, Lance from VanFest USA. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was almost said thank you for joining, but yeah, that's just a force of habit.
You can tell who's been on
Thank you.
podcasts and things like this. I love this. I've got to tell you, I'm really excited because I've learned a lot about VanFest, and I want to know. Just give me sort of a story of how did this whole thing get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually didn't start it. Fun story. A gentleman named Ashton started it, who lived locally to southern Utah, and he and his wife were looking into van life and said, "I wish there was something around here that would bring bands together." And they ended up throwing together, kind of ad hoc, VanFest. Um, And, as life has it, life takes fun different turns. They had a great event. I think they had about 80 rigs show up. Um, they kind of set the stage as posing it as kind of like 80% festival and a little bit of expo, like a boutique expo. And his wife, I believe, got into med school and he moved to Raleigh. And I think Raleigh, somewhere in one of the Carolinas. And I saw it on Instagram about a year ago or so saying, "Hey, does anyone want to take over VanFest?" I'm kind of, life took me in a different direction. So I said, yeah, I got time. I can do that. Not knowing how much time it would take.
Oh yeah.
So my wife and I kind of took it over, and it's been going ever since. We just had our first event, VanFest second event in southern Utah. Had about 140 rigs, give or take, show up. Had about 500 people come through to check them out. The weather threw a little bit of a curveball, but we made it work. You turns out Hurricane Utah is pretty windy. Who would have thought? But we're going on our second event in a couple months at the end of January in Eastern Florida.
Cocoa Beach. I'm going to be there. I'm
Cocoa
all
Beach
excited.
adjacent. It's
Woo!
Cocoa. It's inland from Cocoa Beach.
It's in the area of Cocoa Beach. Let's
It
just say it like
turns out no one has a giant stamp of property in Cocoa Beach that they wanted to rent out, and
that.
half of it's also the Space Force space. They said no. I did ask,
Well, you
but
got to
no.
ask. All I can say is no, right? You never
It's
know.
the worst case scenario. Yeah.
That's right. And vans back in the day, they were, there was a whole brand called Starcraft. So
Oh
that
yeah.
would be in theme with what was going
A
on.
little
Just
bit.
saying.
A little bit. Yeah, it's true. That's true. I like that. I like the way you think.
Just thinking, just putting some things together here. So you essentially, I don't want to say capitalized, but you sort of like expanded upon an original idea, which
Yes.
is now, I mean, you're going all over. And I really like this idea. And you were just talking about the different places. So let's talk
Sure.
about this for a second because okay. I know we got tickets for
Yep.
January 26th to 28th in Vieira, Florida. Ooh,
Yeah.
ah. It's a great little area. It really is nice.
Yeah.
But you have okay, so you do Utah, Florida, you in the northeastern region, and then you do
W-
Utah.
Yep.
Wow.
Working on from New England, from Massachusetts, from Boston. Not really. From 40 miles south of Boston.
Uh-huh.
Um, so really want to try to get something together up there because it's a very, it's not everyone knows the western part of the country, right? It's BLM land and picturesque landscapes, but New England's pretty cool.
But
And yeah, spending
you
the summers up there, I see dozens of vans.
it's
They're all
awesome.
over.
I'll tell you what, right now, there is a huge contingency of van lifers who either before or after the Hershey RV show want to stay in the New England region.
Hmm.
So just saying, if you could like arrange it like the weekend before, the weekend after, there'd be like a whole bunch of van lifers who
That's
want to come
nice.
like check it out. That'd be really cool.
Don't know exactly when that is. So
Okay. It's well,
September 11th through the 15th.
yeah, yeah, it's a big week. It's a
Really?
lot of fun. It's always a big thing, but it seems to me that was a draw. And then anything around that, anything that shoulders that, we're like,
Mm,
make some time. We can
nice,
go check that out. I love these
nice.
things.
So I'm
Very
actually looking at a piece of private property. Probably it's sometime in December up in the New Hampshire main line, which will be just covered in snow, but that's okay.
that's okay. That's okay. We'll put the four-wheel drive on. We'll be fine. I love this. So
That's nice.
okay, so you've got okay, start with one, and now we're thinking four.
We're
Um
thinking. I mean, this is this year and next year, so three
this year, next
three
year.
next year, and then
Okay.
we'll kind of see where it goes from there. I'd like to do
So
5 in a year.
we could do five. No big deal. No big deal. Um, what are people? I'm sure people have gone like multiple years. What are some of the things that people look forward to at VanFest?
Yeah, I think kind of the community aspect, similar to other events. Like you have, like the Journal of Lost Time events and Schoolie Palooza and various levels of organization. Everything from an Adventure Van Expo, which is an expo that you can camp at, all the way down to just getting together in the desert. Don't tell the Bureau of Land Management that it's an event. But honestly, I think the community is catching up with people. We've made friends. We actually started our van life adventure, I suppose, when it really got some steam behind it from a similar event in Massachusetts. I think it was a United Tiny House event. Um, there were like 8 vans. It wasn't big, but it really gave us that tangible, like, hey, let's do this. And we've met people at other events. We've gone to several, and you end up running into them kind of randomly too sometimes. And you're like, oh, you're here. I didn't know that. Um, and I think just that sense of community, and that's what we're really trying to portray here, is like this isn't just a couple of people who are cheating the housing market. It's actually like a community of people, and most of them are. I'm gonna angle this way a little bit. Most of them are pretty cool. Almost everyone I have met has been either at least pretty cool. I'll say that's like the minimum, right? But there are people that we love to see and catch up with, and it's amazing to just run into someone around across the country.
It's really cool. It is
Yeah.
really cool. I think the van life community as a whole has been pretty amazing. There are some of these really large scale events, but you're right. Like you can make those connections with individuals, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going is because it's not brand specific. It's not all DIYers. It's not this or
Mhm.
that. And it's just the concept of I call it tiny home travel. Um, and you get to meet some really cool people, and you get to learn. Honestly, you get to learn from people. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years, but there have been people doing it a lot
Oh
longer than
yeah.
me, who give me some great advice and learn a few tips and tricks.
Mhm.
Things. It's not as easy as I've got a van and here's a couple apps. Go for it.
There's a lot of tribal knowledge
Yeah.
involved, and it is like that's our kind of thing, is like you just have to have the spirit. We had someone in a minivan in Utah. I've heard of people, I've met people living in small SUVs. They literally convert a Ford Escape, I think it was. What's the little one? I think it's an Escape. And they took down the wall panels and they put up insulation and they put a fan on the roof and a solar panel, and it was a bed with drawers under it. And they're like, it's good enough. It's what we need.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I mean, you're right. We've seen a bunch of these things. There's been transition into different things. I love looking at the DIYers
Yeah.
because it takes a lot of effort and concentration, and you learn from your mistakes. I would say you learn greater from a failure than you do a
Sure.
success. So
Sure. Absolutely. And it's funny, my wife kills me, or wants to kill me rather, because I'm like, well, the next one will be this and this. And because that was my COVID project. I bought a transit. I
mhm.
said, you know what? Why not? We're stuck at home for months. Who knows? And I channeled my high school wood shopping skills, and I just went nuts. And the next one will probably be a box truck, if we're being honest. But
See? So you
you
start you
learn.
start you start thinking those things. I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
right now, I have like a little wish list of all
Yeah.
the things that I've learned, from different bed styles to,
Hmm.
plumbing and water. Like, how much water do you really need? Like, I have a plumbing system. I really don't need the plumbing system I have. I need something very simple,
There you
very
go.
easy. So the more simpler it is, the easier it is to replicate and use and whatnot. So,
Yep.
I'm looking forward to meeting people. Let's say I want to
Hmm.
meet people. I want to, learn some new things, which I'm sure I will. And it's always fun to see what people have. Sometimes there's a route. Sometimes people chase the 70s. Some people have,
Sure.
bucket list items that they're doing. I'm on a bucket list phase of my life right now. So I'm going to different
Hmm.
places. Like I want to go to Banff, then Calgary.
Same.
Yeah,
It's a pin that's on Google. Every time I look at Google Maps, I'm like, one day I'll
I
go
want to
there.
go there. So,
Does
I'm,
yours have a bunch of pins of like want to go and have been?
yeah.
That's what mine is.
Yeah. So so you never know. This could be a situation where I meet some people who are like that's on their bucket list too, and maybe we
Mhm.
plan, a little caravan to go out there. And it is fun to go out with caravans
Yeah.
sometimes. Everybody does their own separate thing, but it's nice to drive with someone for safety reasons and stuff like that.
Absolutely. There's a couple of people I now follow because I met them at VanFest Utah, and they are traveling together now. I think 3 or 4 of them, and I think they're made their way to California at this point. But I just saw a post the other day. They're like, we just discovered that we all play volleyball, and they're like, great, we're a team. And now they're like, I think they're at like Huntington Beach or Pacific Beach or something, like
I love
challenging
that.
other teams. I guess I don't know.
Love that.
I'm
Love
not a
that.
volleyball person.
No, and it's not just pickleball either. It's everything. Frisbee
Yeah.
golf, disc golf, whatever you want to call it. There's tons of things to do. So okay, so community's number one. So talk to me about this little like expo thing. What are we thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, my wife and I, we were inspired. We found the OGs, the Eamon and Bex, and Maria Jose and Chase, both of which have kind of stopped doing it. But we're like, oh, my wife was like, oh, yeah, look at this, and I'm like, ah, cool, cool, cool. And then I think it was late 2018 or 2019, randomly in our hometown, we kind of were like, oh, there's a thing at the fairgrounds, and I distinctly remember we were very house poor at the time. We had bought a house; it was way too much. We bit off way too much, and I'm like, $20. I don't know. But we said, screw it. We ended up doing it, and we met a bunch of people. but more importantly, like we got inside of these rigs,
Mhm.
and we are like, oh, this is extremely doable. You don't really know. I mean, like, you can look pictures of a house online or an apartment and say, oh, cool. But once you get in there, you don't really know what the dimensions are like, or how livable it is. And that's one of the reasons that, we had talked about starting up a van life event thing in some way, shape, or form before VanFest came along. And Ashton was like, hey, who wants to take it over? And to really showcase that to the nomads at heart is what I put it as. Um, and to say, look, like, you don't have to do this, but know that it is a tangible idea. Like, you have, I saw a thing on LinkedIn the other day, you have 4,000 weeks if you're lucky, which I think that only equates to like 78 years. I hope I have more like 5, but challenge yourself. Look at things through a different lens, through a different perspective. Maybe you don't have to do it, but just go check it out and see, like, living in a sticks and bricks, as some people say, is not a hard and fast requirement. And there are many different ways to do it.
Absolutely. And life is in chapters. I keep saying that.
Yep.
You may read the book, but every chapter has something different. And nothing says you
Yes.
have to do this, for the rest of your life, or maybe you do it for a couple of years, or maybe there are a lot of people who are traveling to look for a piece of land that they want to stay
Yeah.
on.
Absolutely.
There's like a goal of that perspective. So,
And one chapter defines the next too. That's the thing, is, you can plan it out to the umpteenth degree, but one thing, walking, happening to drive by a sign that says tiny home event, and you go, huh, what's that all about? Completely, like, we ended up selling a house because of this.
mhm,
We own a van. The bank owns a van. We own most of a van, and we have a 5 by 15 storage unit by an airport, and
yep,
that's it.
that's
And
it.
like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I was like, what are you talking about? That's not going to happen. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's nice because I think when you start defining yourself and not letting others define, your
Mhm.
situation, and you understand your own happiness and not making it based on something else, you can do a lot of amazing things.
Oh yeah.
So that's why finding these communities specifically, like if you are currently traveling, and honestly, I think of van life as sort of luxury travel. Let's be honest. There's a
It's
lot of
become
people.
luxury travel.
It's become luxury travel. I mean,
Absolutely.
depending on what you're buying and what you're doing. But I was talking to someone who had this gorgeous car, and I said, "Fantastic, but does it have a bathroom?"
Yeah. Can I pee in here? Like, and it's okay to do,
No,
or
no.
is that like a I need to detail it afterwards
Yeah, not
type of
not the
thing?
same. I'm like,
Yeah.
for that kind of money, I want a shower and a bathroom, and we'll talk about the rest, and maybe like
And
internet too.
it changes your perspective on these things. I mean, I'm in Naples, Florida right now, which is affluent. And these people are driving by, and I'm slow. I'm 9,000 pounds and shaped like a brick, right? And Bentleys and Range Rovers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, cool. But like, I'm just gonna park and go to sleep.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my living expenses are like nothing.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's a very very different situation. I love it. I love it. I'm very excited about this. So okay, so VanFest. So the next one that is coming up in Florida for a lot of
yep.
these snowbirds that are coming down that way.
Hmm.
Do you
Hmm.
have any advice for people who might be coming down earlier, where they could stay, or the places that they should check out in the area before your event?
It's interesting. I think I have a unique lens on that because growing up in New England, have you been to New England? You spent time there?
Yeah.
There's not room for much. Everything that is prime real estate is either protected or there's a Dunkin' Donuts there, basically. And no, I kid you not. I used to live within reasonable walking distance of 5 Dunks. 5. So coming down to Florida, it's very similar. You go through the Carolinas and stuff, but Florida is very, very populated. Simply, like, and then we went to the West. We had never really been out to the West Coast aside from like one flight to LA once. And seeing all the room out there, I'm like, there's so many places to park and this and that. Um, if you're coming from the West to the East, it's kind of a shock of like, whoa, wait, what? Cracker Barrels are going to be your friend in
Mhm,
Florida,
mhm.
definitely. Walmarts generally are as well, and that's the other thing too. Is you go up, especially in the PNW. We were up there for about 2.5 months this summer because everywhere else was 110 degrees, and a lot of the Walmarts there are no Cracker Barrels anymore. The Walmarts, no, can't park there. Can't park at the Bass Pro Shop. Can't park at the Cabela's. A lot of it has, because of overuse or various other reasons, been kind of ruined, and the East Coast is very accepting of it because it is not. It's still a viable resource. It hasn't been overrun. It hasn't been overused and or taken advantage of.
Mhm.
There are many beautiful spots for the day. Overnight, you are probably looking at Walmarts and Cracker Barrels for the most part, unless you go away out in the Everglades or something, and then you might get eaten by gators or mosquitoes.
Things to think about. Yeah, yeah. Gotta
Also,
look through it.
Speaking of gators, I actually was just on the phone earlier with the owners of Space Coast Daily Park, where VanFest is going to be, and they have a lake, a man-made lake on the property, and they go, "Oh yeah, we just found out there's a live gator in there, so keep that in mind." Like, wait, what?
Fantastic.
They're like, "Oh, he's just 4 feet, he's fine." But yeah,
Yeah,
don't
just
get eaten by the gator, I guess.
hold your children and watch your small dogs,
Yeah,
people. That's
yeah,
all we're
pretty much,
saying.
pretty much. But no, Florida's beautiful. The beaches are amazing. Um, St. Pete is also. We just spent a few days in there, over there, and it's kind of like a little mecca for vans as well. There's
Mhm.
a couple parks everyone hangs out at. It's a little boardwalk. It's like a mini Pacific beach. It's kind of cool.
Nice. Yeah, very nice. Well, I'm excited. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
going to be down there for a little while. I've got some things going on, and I can't wait
yeah,
to check out some people and see some stores. And you're right. I mean, I think getting reservations for campgrounds and such in Florida during January and February, it's an advanced degree. It's a
yeah,
whole other kind of shuffle. Like you've got to really have an idea. And thanks for the tips on Walmarts and Cracker Barrels because that's
oh yeah,
important for people coming
yeah,
down, what they're going to do, and where they're going to may stay for a couple days and before you get there.
yeah.
Is there anything that people should bring to your event?
Bring, um, absolutely. So similar to a lot of events, we don't have hookups. I think we have water available if we need it in a pinch, but um, empty your tanks, fill up your tanks, not the same ones. Um, Make sure you stock up on food, some drinks. We will, unlike Utah, we will have a bar, so that's good. Florida is very loosey goosey with laws, where Utah tends to be a bit keep the
Different.
purse strings. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I've been joking, and I won't do this obviously, but I feel like we could go. I could go to Florida and be like, "We're gonna catch a dolphin," and they'd be like, "Sure, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Why not?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
they're
we
pretty
we don't we
fast.
don't want to we don't want to have Florida van life, man. We don't
Yeah,
want to go there. We
no, no, no. Um, Bring your own chair. Obviously, everyone. If you're in a van, you probably have a camp chair of some sort. But
right.
bring a chair, bring a friend. By all means, help share the experience, right, in the community and camaraderie of it all.
So there's so you can get tickets to camp overnight, and then you can
Yes,
get tickets for just the day for all those
just
van
a day.
curious people who want to hang
Yep,
out, which is great.
couple
So,
bucks.
like you said, you went to your tiny home thing. People could come and just pay a daily admission and check it out and see what's going on.
Yeah, we're gonna have some workshops. We're gonna have some sponsors and vendors, local food trucks, a bar apparently, some live music going on, a lot of nomadic bands. It'll be a great weekend.
So for people who this is their first time going,
Yeah,
do you have like mixers for them to meet other people or like how are they going to become engaged in people that are there? What's the
yeah,
thought?
yeah. So working on setting up a potluck.
Okay.
I got the idea from another event that I went to. It was just a great icebreaker because when you're an adult, it's tough to kind of like
Right.
just make just strike up a conversation that isn't like the stock market's crap, huh? So I mean, food is such a not divisory, the opposite of it. It brings people together, right? Food brings people together.
It does.
So we're gonna have a potluck. We're going to have a couple hours on Saturday and Sunday for the public to come that where vans are open for tours, and those people. First of all, advance thank you to everyone who has agreed to open up for tours. It's kind of one thing that we're all about, and we love you guys for that. Um, and it doesn't mean you have to sit there all day waiting for someone to come look. Shut the doors and go check out other people's vans. You have this huge, this extremely varied but common denominator, right? And like I said, we've made friends that we met them in Florida. We've seen them in California. We saw them at VanFest. We're going to see them again later this week in Florida. You just make these connections because you have this common ground and this common experience.
Nice. Nice. Well, this is going to be great. I love this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave you with the last comment because I've got so many other questions. I'm going to like write them all down when I get there
Yeah.
and go, okay, Lance, what are we doing? Where's the schedule?
We'll have a live. I'll read through. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, one more thing before we go. So
Please.
I go to a lot of meetups. I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of meetups over the year. Do you have like a place? I call it a communication central hub. Some
Sure.
places use chalkboards. Some people use dry erase. Some people use WhatsApp. Some people use different
Yep.
apps. I don't know what the internet situation is there. So when things change throughout the day or things coming up, how
Mhm.
are you going to communicate that to your guests?
Definitely, good question. First off, internet should be great. Shouldn't need your Starlink. You should have 5G on pretty much every carrier. We're not in the middle of the desert or anything like that, so you should be good. There's also, on that note, a lot of resources in the area. If you forget something, you can literally walk to the grocery store 5-10 minutes. Just wanted to throw that out there. We update Instagram a lot. during an event saying, we updated in Utah saying, hey, the wind picked up. We're going to move everything inside for the day, all the activities and music and things like that. We have a stage set up with speakers facing the event that we use as a PA system as well. And then, the schedule, the public facing schedule on the website, which isn't up quite yet for Florida, but it will be updated throughout the day as things change, as things get added, as things get removed. Some things fall through, who knows. It's you got to be dynamic, I suppose, and a little flexible because there are variables that you don't know. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and that being said, speaking of schedule, if anyone attending wants to host something, if you have a special skill, like by all means, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up at hello@vanfestusa.com and say, hey, I do the thing. I want to talk about like making money on the road. We had someone, Chad from Bearded Van Life, or I live in a rig.com. He and I actually did a thing on just kind of working remotely and how to shape your life to get to that direction.
Very cool. And that's a huge thing. There's a lot of people work
Yeah.
remotely and how can they navigate those waters and find. I always say I'm looking for that cell phone tower. It's like my Mecca.
You don't have Starlink?
We're not talking about that right now. It'll be on my list made for 2024.
I am a network engineer, by the way. So if you want to have questions, let me know.
We can talk about that another time because everyone goes to that, but I've been in extremely populated areas where my data plans have been fine. But if I'm out west, that's a whole other story. So I'm planning an out west trip, and that's when I'm going to have to look at it. So gotta love it. Anyways, definitely. Well, cool. Well, listen, I'm excited. I know everyone else is excited. I can't wait to share this. And do me a favor, if you guys could do as you're watching and listening, go to vanfestusa.com, check it out, get a ticket, make plans, put some things on your calendar. If you're going to be, I know next year you'll do Utah. Are you doing Utah again next year as well?
Working on it.
So all these really cool places. Check out the website. Make sure you guys put it in your calendar. And then who knows? You might just see me and Lance hanging out.
There you go. I spent the whole last event zipping around on my one wheel back and forth.
Love it. It'll be so much fun. All right. Well, thanks, Lance. I appreciate your time. This is fantastic.
Thank you.